sound of roaring. Jets filled the dark sky above the Pacific Ocean as Captain Ryan Cooper's fighter squadron flew low across the water. The world had been holding its breath for months as tensions between the United States and China grew dangerously close to war. What was supposed to be a routine surveillance mission quickly turned into chaos when radar signals spiked and warning lights flashed in Ryan's cockpit. Before he could react, a missile streaked through the night and struck his aircraft. Flames engulfed the jet, and Ryan's world went black. When he opened his eyes, he was lying in a cold, concrete cell, his head throbbing and wrists bound. The faint hum of generators echoed somewhere above him. A single light bulb swung from the ceiling, casting shadows on the damp walls. A man entered the room, dressed in a Chinese military uniform, his expression calm yet distant. "I am Major Li Wei," he said in fluent English. "You are on Chinese soil now, Captain Cooper. You will answer my questions." Ryan stared back, silently refusing to speak. The silence between them was heavy, filled with the invisible weight of war. Days turned into weeks. Ryan was interrogated daily, yet he said nothing beyond his name, rank, and number. Li Wei was unlike the other officers. He did not yell or strike. Instead, he asked questions about family, about purpose, about what makes a soldier. Obey orders he does not believe in. Ryan began to see something human in his captor. And perhaps Li Wei saw the same in him. At night, Ryan would stare at the ceiling, remembering his wife, Sarah, and their 6-year-old daughter, Emma. He imagined their faces, their laughter, and the promise he made before leaving home to always come back. That promise now felt like a dream slipping away. Back in the United States, Sarah Cooper was told that her husband's plane had been lost over the Pacific. The military gave her a folded flag and the words, "We are sorry for your loss." But deep inside, she refused to believe he was dead. One evening, as she sat beside Emma, who had fallen asleep, she received an anonymous email. It contained only one sentence: "He is alive, but not for long." Her heart pounded. She took the message to a journalist and named Ethan Brooks, a man known for exposing government secrets. Ethan warned her that this information was dangerous, but Sarah was determined. She needed the truth. Meanwhile, inside the Chinese facility, Ryan's health began to decline. The food was barely edible, the nights freezing cold. Yet one person secretly helped him, a young medic named May, who brought him water and medicine when no one was watching. May's brother had died years earlier in an American airstrike, and she hated the war. But when she looked at Ryan, she saw not an enemy, but a man far from home. One night as she cleaned his wounds, Ryan whispered, "Thank you." May smiled weakly and said, "Pain has no nationality, Captain. It belongs to everyone." Through May, Ryan managed to send a coded message hidden within a medical report. It contained coordinates and a single word: alive. In Washington, that signal was picked up by Ethan and Sarah, who immediately informed the authorities. But the military chose silence. They feared that rescuing Ryan would escalate the fragile situation into a full-scale war. Sarah felt helpless, yet she refused to give up. She appeared on national television pleading for her husband's life. Her words moved millions. Across social media, people began demanding the truth about the missing pilot. The world was watching now. Inside the base, Li Wei received orders to transfer Ryan to a high-security facility in Tibet. He knew what that meant. Prisoners sent there never came back. That night, Li Wei sat alone, staring at his reflection in the mirror. He had served his country all his life, believing loyalty was everything, but something inside him had changed. The American pilot he was told to hate had reminded him that honor sometimes means disobedience. When dawn broke, he walked into Ryan's cell. "You have one chance to leave," he said quietly. Ryan looked at him in disbelief. "Why are you doing this?" Li Wei replied, "Because I am tired of being the villain in someone else's story." As rain poured outside, the two men slipped through the shadows toward the outer fence. Alarms suddenly blared. Soldiers shouted orders. Floodlights swept across the field. Ryan and Li Wei ran through mud and gunfire. A bullet grazed Ryan's shoulder, but he kept moving, driven by the thought of home. They reached the mountains where helicopters roared overhead. Li Wei stopped and turned to Ryan. "If you keep going, you will find a Feta village beyond that ridge. My people will not follow you there." Ryan hesitated, knowing Li Wei would be caught if he stayed behind. "Come with me," he urged. Li Wei shook his head. "No, my place is here. Someone has to stop this madness from inside." Moments later, Chinese patrols appeared at the base of the mountain. Li Wei fired a warning shot to draw them away, giving Ryan the chance to escape. Ryan looked back one last time as his friend disappeared into the fog. The sound of gunfire echoed, then silence. He kept climbing through the storm until his body collapsed on the border of a neutral zone. When he woke again, he was in a hospital bed surrounded by American medics. They said he was lucky to be alive. But Ryan did not feel lucky. He felt empty. Months passed. Ryan returned to the United States to a hero's welcome. Cameras flashed, medals were pinned on his chest, yet all he could think about was the man who saved him. During a congressional hearing, he was asked to speak about his experience. He stood before the nation and said, "I met a man who should have been my enemy. He wore a different flag and spoke a different language. But he taught me more about honor than any battlefield ever could. His name was Li Wei, and he was the bravest soldier I have ever known." The room fell silent. There were no politics in his voice, only truth. After the hearing, Ryan went home to Sarah and Emma. The first night back, he walked into his study and placed a small Chinese insignia beside the American flag on his desk. It was the emblem Li Wei had given him during their escape, a symbol of friendship born in the fire of war. As he stood there, Sarah came in quietly and said, "You still think about him, don't you?" Ryan nodded. "He saved my life," she whispered. "Then maybe one day the world will know what that really means." Ryan looked out the window at the quiet night sky, and for the first time in a long while, he felt peace. Years later, Ryan visited a memorial wall built to honor soldiers from both nations who lost their lives in the conflict. Among the names, he found one that made him stop: Li Wei. He placed a white flower beside it and whispered, "You kept your promise, my friend." Then he turned and walked away as the wind carried the sound of the ocean. In the distance, the story of Captain Ryan Cooper and Major Li Wei spread slowly through people who believed that humanity could still exist even in war. It became a reminder that sometimes enemies can see each other more clearly than friends ever could. In classrooms, soldiers, and homes across America, people told the tale of the silent prisoner, not as a story of two nations at war, but as a story of two men who found peace in the middle of chaos. And though the world would go on arguing and fighting and building walls, somewhere deep inside, hearts were changed quietly, silently, forever.